Hello everyone, this is update for March 26th and 25th, 2023, day 396 of the war, end of the date update. So today is going to be a fairly short update. There's not really much going on over a weekend. However, I just want to discuss a couple of the military strategic topics. I'm going to give a short update on the state of Ukrainian agriculture. I haven't spoken about it in a while. So just give you perspective, their record harvest for Ukraine was in 2021. I think it was like 82 million tons in total of all kind of grains. Then in 2022, during the wartime, it was 53. And as you can imagine, significant areas were affected, even though most of these areas are actually not the most highest yielding areas, by the way. They're not sort of prime areas, even though they are close to the sea, so there's some advantage that they have. But in any ways, so 2022 Ukraine had 53 harvest, and in 2023 Ukraine is expected to have 42. So as you can see, the drive here is not because of the territories, lost territories, but it's all economic incentives. Economic incentives are destroyed inside of Ukraine, and so you have huge reductions. So as you can see, from basically 82 to 42, so it's in half. This is definitely enough for Ukraine to have enough and not have a famine or whatever, like shortages. There's some obviously leftover for export, but it's definitely agriculture as economic driver and economic basis for Ukrainian economy is definitely severely undermined and not really carrying much weight anymore. So this is just a quick economic update on Ukraine. Otherwise, as I mentioned before, Ukrainian economy is essentially destroyed. There is nothing left. And Ukraine lives off essentially financial aid from the West. That's really what carries Ukraine at this point. Now let's switch actually to the strategic military topics. So first, I did not mention, I think a couple days ago, there was speech given by the Czech president. He's newly elected, and basically the speech he gave, the message in his speech was essentially what Ukraine got, what Ukraine is getting, all of this Leopard tanks, Challenger tanks, whatever other equipment. This is basically one-time deal, basically there's not gonna be flow of the same amount of equipment to Ukraine going forward, and so Ukraine has only one shot at offensive. If it's not successful, then Ukraine needs to figure out. Essentially, Ukraine is put into position. Okay, it needs to accept the capitulation, essentially. And this is not a view of obviously Czech president. This is a view, like sort of collective view of the West, and he just a sort of speaker or the messenger, essentially public messenger for all of this. And that's why there was response from Ukrainian president who said, okay, we're not ready. If this is the case, we're not ready for the offensive, which I would say, yes, it's true. Ukrainian army is not ready for offensive, and not only for the reason, why Ukrainian president said, as I said, it's coming from their poor training, poor leadership at the Ukrainian military top, Ukrainian political top, and everything. So this is the source of it, and so it all kind of like trickles down to all levels in the Ukrainian army. So. And then at the same time, it looks like a Russian sort of side is also declaring that they're not going to have major offensive. So, and this is I'm bringing up to the bigger picture is this is the first signs that both sides are extremely exhausted, and more exhausted in terms of equipment, material, and they're getting to the point that they cannot really do much, basically, in terms of active warfare. They basically can maintain whatever is happening right now, but to do any like major breakthrough, major offensive, it seems that both sides are out of the sort of, call it, powder. And this was actually, there was admission by the Russian president, who openly admitted that there is a shortage of shells, so shell hunger. He said that there are limits of how much every unit can have, and so on. So this is just a euphemism to say the same thing. And there is a severe shortage. It's not just a shortage; it's a severe shortage, and Russian side is basically scraping the bottom of the barrel on their side. And in the same speech, Russian president sort of gave their Russian estimates of sort of the situation with the shells. So in Russian estimates, Ukrainian army is using about 5,000 shells per day. And the production, let's say in the US, in Russian estimate, is 15,000 per month. So you can imagine it's 500 shells per day. There is also production in Europe, so that's not fair. There's more, but it's definitely not even 5,000 shells per day. And his claim was that Russia is producing 3 times more, which means that Russia is producing 1.5 thousand shells per day. Given that Russia was using their sort of business model is built on using, around plus minus 15,000 shells per month. So, now it's only 10% of what used to be. So the business model is broken. And so Russia, and that's why you see that Wagner mercenaries got stuck, and there's pretty much, Russian side is also not capable of making major sort of penetration, major advances into Ukrainian defensive lines. I mean, there are very sort of small tactical successes around Avdiivka and Bahmut, but at large, they really not capable of achieving much at this point. Again, and then related to all of this, there is very clear realization in both societies. It's this is in a way like landslide shift that starts to happening in both societies. That this is just a meat grinder for no purpose, and the things needs to be changed. There's no realization how it needs to be changed, but it's just the first stage towards the next steps in what I call 1917 moments in both countries. But there's definitely, we move to the next level on this path, and got much more closer to the sort of end goal of where both societies are heading. Then in other news, it's and this could be still false news. Russian sources report that Russian colonel general, I think his rank, his name is Muradov. He's in charge of Russian group under letter V. So there is Z, V, and O. So 3 letters. So he's in charge of V, and they are operating here in this sector here where I'm showing. And specifically, he masterminded this Russian local offensive against Vuhledar that was horrific, that costed a lot of lives, equipment, and everything for the Russian side, including 155th Brigade that was essentially become non-operational at this point, and then 40th Brigade severely damaged. So essentially, he destroyed those 2. So he's dismissed based on this information. He is totally hated in the Russian military at their sort of low levels or low level low-ranking officers. From Ukrainian perspective, this is obviously extremely negative because, as you can see, he was completely incapable, and so that really helped the Ukrainian side. At the same time, it's not like that there are, you know. Mansteins there in the Russian military staff headquarters. So it's probably going to be another one. It's very similar to this one, maybe a little bit better marginally, but it's probably not going to change the situation much, basically, on the Russian side. It's just there is complete incompetence and lack of capable commanders. Actually, very similar to how it used to be in the Russian Imperial Army during World War One, that led to actually collapse of the army and then to collapse of the empire. Now let's walk through the front line. We're gonna do it in a clockwise fashion as always, and gonna start from the very north. So the situation along the state border is tense, exchange of artillery fire, exchange of all sort of rocket strikes and so on, but nothing sort of major in terms of what I reported, that there is a chance that the Russian side may try to attack around Kharkiv another time. Then let's jump to North Lugansk front line. Situation here is for now relatively quiet. There are Russian sort of artillery fire, but there's no really major attacks here. Just small skirmishes, just probing action, but no true real major. So in a way, kind of like got little quiet here. Let's put it this way. Now let's move to the North Donbass front line, where things are pretty bad. They remain pretty bad for Ukrainian side. So also was essentially quiet, with the only exception is this whole area around Bahmut, where Wagner mercenaries, attacking. By the way, they got also now regular Russian troops, so that it's becoming a mix. So which again goes to the point that they're getting exhausted and they don't have enough density, and so they're getting filled with regular Russian troops. So they made some progress here of completely clearing this northern part, the non-ferrous metal factory here, smelter to be more precise. So, and they basically advancing a little bit here. I'm not even changing because it's slow, painful squeeze. So they advanced a little bit here up in the north, and they apparently advanced here a little bit up in the south. So essentially, they slowly squeezing in a painful attacks Ukrainian troops, which costs a lot of sort of lives on the Russian side, and it does cost a good amount of lives on the Ukrainian side. So it's essentially just, I would say, meaningless, purposeless, completely total meat grinder here that's happening right now. And whether Russian troops will be able to sort of do final squeeze remains to be seen. They probably, the chances are that they will, but at the same time, it's not a guarantee at this point. This is just how it's sort of was developing the situation, as you can see. So this is really the situation. Otherwise, there are also attacks here in the southern flank, which are not successful for Russian troops. But essentially, the situation here is somewhat stable, but stable in terms of exchanging, good number of, Ukrainian lives for larger at this point number of Russian lives. Now let's move to the central Donbass front line. Things here are essentially without changes. Attacks here around Avdiivka, where Russian troops managed to achieve initial success, about starting 18, so it was like 8 days ago, 8 days ago, and since then, so this is the picture. Since then, they got stalled here. So there's no new advances, no new successes. They cannot get over this railroad, and they so far not able to advance towards this villages Novokalinova and Keramik. Here they also sort of are so far contained. So essentially, this whole local attack that looked very promising for the Russian side looks like it's stalled as well. Otherwise, there is just essentially this futile attacks in Marinka that, whatever, Russian troops gain another 50 meters, 30 meters, but that just it's not even like World War One. I don't even know how to describe it better. Basically, there. This is on March 22nd, as you can see, initial success. They managed to get into this village Tepove, but were not able to hold on to it and pull back behind the railroad line. Now let's quickly finish with the Zaporizhya front line, and things here are back to quiet. It looks like both sides don't have resources to do the attack, and more importantly, not even resources. They don't have properly trained and skilled troops at all levels, starting from the top, going all the way to the bottom. So both sides are completely sort of incapable of using effective resources that they have at their disposal essentially at this point. If I would really primitivize this description, I would say at this point there's like two peasants' armies that fighting against each other, but they really peasants' armies that not capable of sort of achieving anything, and they more or less equal in strengths and so on. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and till next time. Bye bye.